Aere mai rana manuhiri tuarangi huri rauna I Aotearoa nei e. Mauria mai nā mate hei whāri ki te I tō rātau aroha I mua I a tātou e. Karanga mai rā te kaupapa te rānei e, te whatu kairangi Aotearoa nei e.
Hi hei mauri ora. Tēnei au te hōkai nei taku tapu ai. Ko te hōkai nuku, ko te hōkai rangi. Ko te hōkai o tō tipuna tāne nui ārangi. I pikiti ai ki te rangi tūhāhā ki te hi o manono. I roko hina atura ko I o matua kore anake. I rirui huaenga ke te o te wānanga. Ko te ke te tua uri, ko te ke te tua tea, ko te ke te aronui. Ka tiri tiri a, ka pau pau a, kia papatu ānuku. Ka puta te ira tangata ki te whai ao, ki te ao māramati he pauri ora. Waiho mā tērā karakia, e whakawātea te ara mō tā tātou kaupapa. Ko ia hoki te hinga o te mahara, I hua ake ai te ingoa hou nei a te whatu kairangi. Ko te kōwhatu hoki tērā I whakawhiwhia ki te akonga, I te putanga o tōna ihu, I ngā whare wānanga o mua. Nā wai rā e ngā iwi o ngā hau e whā, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou I o tātou mate tuatini. Nā koutou I tangi, nā mātou I tangi, me ki nā tātou katoa. Tihei mauri mate, tihei mauri ora. E taku iti, e taku rahi. Patu nei au hei māngai mo te poari, mo ngā runanga, mo te rōpu whiriwhiri, o tira mo ngā kaimahi o ako Aotearoa. Tūhono mai rā ki a te whatu kairangi. Tūhono mai rā hoki I runga I te reo pōhiri o te minita o te mātauranga. Nā reira e te honore Chris Hipkins, tēnā rā koe. Ka mihi hoki ki te honore Premier kia Jacinda Ardern. Aha kua kāre ia e wāte ana, ko tukuna mai ana kupu kia tātou katoa. Kāti he toko maha ngā tāngata hei mihitanga māku. Ko ngā pokapū mātauranga maha o te kāwanatanga ēnā. Ko ngā whare ako, ko ngā whare whakangungu ēnā. Nā reira tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Heoi anō ko ngā tāngata me tino whakanui I te rānei, ko ngā kai ako katoa o te motu. Waihoki ko ngā kai ako toa o te tau. Ka whakanuia I tēnei rā. Tēnā rawa atu koutou katoa. Me o koutou whānau katoa hoki o koutou hoa katoa hoki. Me hari kōko koutou ka tika. O tira, kia kaua tātou e wareware ki ngā ākonga. I te mutunga iho hoki ko ngā ākonga, te tino pūtake o a tātou nei mahi. Nā reira ngā mihi nui whakaharahara kia koutou katoa, huri noa, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kei te kaiwaiata I nā ene.
Mawaira, taurima te marae waho nei. Ma te tika, ma te pono, me te aroha e.
Nā reira kahuri te rākau i tēnei wā.
Kei aku marae kura, kei aku whatu kura. Koutou ko hono mai a ipurangi nei, kei raro i te maru o tēnei whare o ako Aotearoa. Ki te whakanui i ngā kai ako toko iwa nei, papa ki kauana ngā tai o mihi ki a tātou katoa. I te tuatahi me mihi ka tika ki a koe Joe, nau tō tātou hui i whakatūwhera ki ngā kupu ki te atua. O tira ki a koe anō hoki mai i tō karanga ki a mātou. Tēnā kōrua. Ko maunga kāka, ko whitu matarau ngā maunga paupau, ko waipapa iti ko awatere ngā māpuna oranga. He moko punau nā hunara, nā hinerupe, nā tū whakairi ora anō hoki. He uri ahau no Ngāti Porou, ko Karen Paringātai tōku ingoa, tēnā tātou katoa. I'd like to welcome you all, wherever you may be in the world, to the 2022 Te Whatu Kairangi Awards. My name is Karen Paringātai, and I have the privilege of once again being the MC for these awards on behalf of Ako Aotearoa. Since 2001, these awards, under a previous name, have recognised more than 230 of New Zealand's top tertiary educators. And today we will celebrate and acknowledge the achievement of another 9 outstanding educators from a range of disciplines and tertiary institutions throughout the country. However, this year's awards process includes a number of changes aimed at making the awards more accessible to all educators from across New Zealand's tertiary education and training sector system. There is a greater emphasis on evidence of sustained contribution to and impact on learner success, and the flow-on effect on whānau, communities and employment outcomes. Applications also needed to include evidence of the leadership of learning and teaching, and how nominees include capability development of colleagues as part of their contribution. We also have a name change from the Tertiary Teaching Excellence Awards in the past to Te Whatu Kairangi. Now, this name is taken from the Māori narrative that tells of the retrieval of the 3 baskets of knowledge and the teaching of that knowledge in our whare wānanga, or our pre-European Māori institutions of learning of esoteric knowledge. Whatu, or stones, were used throughout the learning process to embed the information within the students. Upon the conclusion of their learning, they were given a particular stone called a Whatu Kairangi to symbolise that they had successfully passed. Now, today's awardees have spent a considerable amount of time becoming notable experts in their field. They have refined their teaching and been assessed by a panel of experts to have fulfilled the criteria of the awards that leaves no doubt of the impact they have had on their students and beyond. In essence, the recipients have been recognised as the learned experts of teaching in their field. Unlike in previous years, the general awards are focused on specific categories that align with the tertiary education strategy and Aotearoa strategic priorities under its contract with the Tertiary Education Commission. All of these are found on the Aotearoa website. Extremely honoured today to have in virtual person the Honourable Chris Hipkins, the Minister of Education, to speak to us today about Te Whatu Kairangi and the role of these awards in today's tertiary environment. After the Minister's address, May will provide a Waitaki Ngaki, a song of enrichment of the Minister's words. Kei a koe te wā.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou, and hello to all of you who are participating today from wherever you are, and warm greetings to the friends and whānau who are supporting you. I am sorry that we can't be together at this time, but I'm delighted to have this opportunity to be part of the Aotearoa Tertiary Educator Awards for 2022. We're all coming to terms with this new hybrid model of both online and remote working and training, and it's not always easy. I know that it can be hard to build rapport with one another and with students, and when you're not in class together, that's a particular challenge. But as experienced teachers, you've been doing your best throughout COVID-19 to keep those relationships, to be a mentor and to engage. And I also know many of you will be gladly welcoming students back into your classrooms over the last few months. I also want to acknowledge that the sector itself is going through a pretty significant change. Like with the move to a new blended online teaching and learning model, we need to both embrace change, but also be really mindful of those who it has an effect on. So my request to you is to keep going, keep doing the brilliant work that you do. It is an uncertain time, but your contribution is vital for your students and for our country as a whole. What won't change is the excellence in tertiary teaching that you all bring. These awards are a time to honour outstanding teachers and outstanding teaching practice in tertiary, as well as other important values for the sector. As has been mentioned, it's a new award format. They're broader and they're more inclusive of a wider range of teachers and trainers from across the sector. 2 Te Pukenga subsidiaries were included in the awards this year, for example, and we anticipate that this will expand in 2023 as the changes become more known and embedded across the sector. This year's awardees reflect a key commitment of the tertiary education strategy to diversity and to learner success. A diversity of institutions, a range of fields of study, and a commitment to supporting access and successful learners who the system hasn't always prioritised. The success and prosperity of our country depends on maximising opportunities for everybody. We can't just rely on encouragement to improve outcomes. We have to drive it through deliberate actions and policies. Events like this help by visibly signalling to the wider community the changing expectations and focus of our teachers and institutions. I know that there are significant programs going on within all tertiary education organisations, but it's important that people know how we are doing it and the benefits that those changes are bringing. So I want to thank Aotearoa for the significant amount of dedication and work that you've put into these awards. Thanks also to the awards panel, who no doubt faced some pretty difficult decisions. And I particularly want to recognise the board chair, Derek McCormick, and Tumuaki Helen Lomax. To the awardees, congratulations. To all of your families, whānau, and colleagues providing support, thank you for your contribution to their success. I wish you all the best, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of this unique celebration of tertiary teaching excellence. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.
Hutia teri uto, hutia teri tote, hara keke. Kei te komako e ko, ki mai ki a hau. He aha te mea nui, he aha aha te mea nui o te ao. Maku e ki atu, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata, hei.
Tēnā koe te minita, no mātai te honore I whai wā koe ki te kōrero kia mātai I tēnei tai. Thank you, Minister Hipkins. The honour is truly ours that you were able to spare some time out of your busy schedule to be here with us today. Nei mātai ka mihi, nei mātai ka tuohu. Now's the time we've all been waiting for, when we get to celebrate and hear from all of our awardees. All of today's recipients are outstanding teachers who contribute to learner success that reaches far beyond the classroom and their students. Their influence also extends to their colleagues, to the wider institution, and to communities both here in New Zealand and overseas. And it was quite easy to see in the comments from their students the impact you've had in each of their careers. What amazed me most when reading the portfolios, and yes, I read all of the portfolios, so I'm really appreciative that the word count was considerably less this year than in previous years. What amazed me most was the range of different disciplines that each of today's recipients come from. No two are the same. They've all shown the selection panel that they're not only passionate about their discipline, but instill that same passion and enthusiasm in their students. Voices of their students, colleagues, and wider communities certainly echoed what I read about each of them. Let us begin today with acknowledging the two Te Whatu Kairangi Kaupapa Māori category awardees. Our first recipient, Rachel Dibble, is a senior lecturer in social services at Te Kura Matatini ki Otago Polytech, Te Pukenga. Rachel's passion is as a Tertiary or Waitangi educator, where she finds the deepest of mamai and expressions of continuous hope for the future. Creating an educational space where tangata whenua and tangata tiriti coexist, where authentic stories can be shared safely. Tiriti work can be extremely lonely, and I pay particular attention to a comment made in Rachel's portfolio that describes her as one of the few that delve deeply into the aspirations of our ancestors, the subsequent onset of settler colonialism, and how we might draw upon Te Tiriti today as a guide towards more just futures for all. Even fewer have the combination of knowledge, skills, wairua and heart to be able to safely take students through what can be a precarious mental, emotional, and spiritual journey. This emotional journey is felt amongst her colleagues, who are gently encouraged to embrace their discomfort, without which there would be no growth. Please join me in congratulating our first recipient this afternoon, Rachel Dibble.
Ko taranaki te maunga, ko waingongoro te awa, ko Aotearoa, ko Ture te rangatira, ko Ngāti Ruanui, ngā rohine me ngā tuwharetoa ngā iwi, ko Okahu inua wai te hapu, ko Aotearoa te marae, ko Haddon te whānau, ko Rachel Hinekiwi Kezia Dibble aho. Taranaki is my tūranga waiwai. My legs are woven into the whenua of our belonging. The legs of my tamariki, woven in the warp and weft of two places, to Taranaki, the magnificent maunga that grounds our spaces, and to Otepoti, the place where their tipuna were brought, suppressed as rebels, but addressed by mana whenua as self-determined rangatira. I am tangata whenua, wahine mama, striving to continue connections to place, kānohi ki te kānohi, face to face. Reality and relationships, I simultaneously define and redefine a sense of belonging as an educator for learners who are most often hearing this kōrero for the first time. This is a kāranga to he whakapūtanga o te rangatiratanga o Nutirani. This is a kāranga to te tiriti o Waitangi. This is a kāranga to ngā tupuna, ngā rangatira, past, present and future. I mihi to my grandmother, Kiri ngā mihi, I mihi to my grandfather, Warren Ambrose, to my mama, Roseanne, to my aunts, Robin and Sally, and to my uncles, Sheldon, Victor, James, and Nicholas. There are few words to capture the volumes of aroha and thanks as I think of the realities of where we are and how we are as Māori, and how my whānau have infinitely influenced my hard mahi. I mihi to my husband, Roger, for the kōrero, the tautoko. Thanks for making the house warm in the mornings after all those late nights of marking. I mihi to my tamariki, James and Tallulah. They are the spark in my fire. I think of them as I continue this hard mahi, becoming heart mahi. I mihi to my cousins and nieces and nephews all around Ngā Motu and over there in the land of Ngā Moemoeā and beyond. How to be seen when we are tangata whenua in different ways. It is also a mihi to cousins found while working on the ground. I mihi to my wider whānau. And finally, I mihi many raised eyebrows to my friends, those that tautoko, those hoa mahi that passionately stand for social justice and tangata tiriti and teach with me. This is a karanga to the past, present and future. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou.
Kia kaha tātou ki te hi kōrero Māori, e menaka ana taku waha ki te kaia te rangatira. Taku reo rangatira, taku kuru pauna mutuku iho. Miharo ke ana ki tōna pakari kia ora. Te memeha te wairua ki te kōrero Māori. Te memeha te wairua ki te kōrero Māori. Kia kaha tātou ki te hi kōrero Māori. Owehi!
One of my most favourite songs ever. E te uri o te maunga hauhunga, o te maunga titohia, o taranaki, tēnā koe. As a Te Tiriti educator, you are most definitely a rarity. Being able to diffuse tensions, break down barriers, and create a mana enhancing environment for all learners is not an easy job. I drive past Rongo on my way to and from work every single day. So I'm reminded of the atrocities suffered at Parihaka. Rongo is a constant reminder of the importance of Te Tiriti o Waitangi and why we must work so hard to ensure a more culturally responsive future. Me tō ngai harakeke, collective strength builds resilience, versatility and inspires success and intergenerational growth. Tēnā koe, Rachel, me whakahihi koe katika. Our second recipient this afternoon, Jamie Smiler, a senior academic in business and tourism at Te Whare Wānanga o Te Whatu Kairangi and Te Kura Matatini o Pitireia, Te Pukenga, clearly sets out his intentions as an educator when the opening paragraph of his portfolio reads, in the words of Paulo Freire, there's no such thing as neutral education. Education either functions as an instrument to bring about conformity or freedom. I choose freedom. I choose to use education as a liberating force. Jamie is not just an interdisciplinary educator, but also institutional. He transcends the traditional boundaries of disciplines and institutions and describes that way of operating as unhelpful in his aspirations for effective transforming socio-cultural, economic, and political outcomes for whānau hapu and iwi. Jamie is a passionate advocate of vocational education, and his way is unapologetically practical. There is no point in learning without doing. developing practical business leaders with not only the skills, but a sense of purpose for advancing the lives of others. What better reason to be an educator? Please join me in congratulating Jamie Smiler.
Kia ora tātou. Kia te nui, kia kurahi, kia rawa tātou katoa. Te tuatahi, I te tuatahi e mihi kia o tātou pautikanga Māori o tēnei rā, kia whae mai I kā rangaranga mai kia tātou kia toa tēnā koe. He tika hoki ki te mihi ki Papa Joe, e whakatau mai o tātou, me whae Lexia, tā mātou maniti oriri o tēnei rā. Ka nui te mihi kia koutou. E te minita, ka nui te mihi kia koe mō tō kōrero, e whakamana I tēnei kaupapa, kei a koe Karen hoki, ka mihi mai o kia koe me rauranga tira mā o aku Aotearoa, huri no I te motu, tēnā koutou. Ki ngā kaiwhiwhi o ngā tohu whatu kairangi e hui mai nei, ka nui te mihi kia koutou, te miharo ke o koutou mahi aku. I te tuarua, ka rere atu taku aroha ki tā tātou mate o te wiki o te marama o te tau. Kua whiturangi tia ki te korowai o rangi nui, o te okikinga o tātou tipuna, haere, haere, haere. Āpiti hono tātou hono, rātou te hunga mate kia rātou, āpiti hono tātou hono, tātou te ngora kia tātou. Ki tōku whānau, ai huhu mai I tēnei ruma, ka nui te mihi kia koutou, ko kaharawa koutou ki te tautoko mai ia hau, ia rā, ia tau, kore e misu ngā mihi aroha kia koutou. Ki te whānau o te pūkinga, ki ngā kaimahi, me ngā akonga katoa, ki whiti reira o Te Whatu Kairangi, me te ao whai mātauranga hoki ki Aotearoa, o ko hō miharo, o ko akonga miharo, he mahi a te mahi o te ako. Aku mihi nunui kia koutou, ko Jamie Smiler tēnei, he uri ahau o te pairāwhiti, ki whānau ākai, ki aitanga māhaki, me rongo whakāta hoki, kia ora mai tātou katoa. To receive this award is, whilst it's an honour, it's been a very big surprise. I did not intentionally set out to have a career in teaching and learning. I'm somewhat of an accidental educator who has developed a passion for education, working with some amazing educators have inspired me in the mahi that I do. And I don't want to name anyone because I missed somebody, but I know some of you are watching today, so I wanted to thank you. As a Māori educator, I believe that kaupapa Māori approaches to teaching and to ako have a lot to offer o akonga Ngā Aotearoa. I've seen the benefits myself across a wide range of disciplines and a wide range of learners. And it's an approach that I've seen have positive benefits for all learners, regardless of their cultural background. Furthermore, as a Māori educator, it's a role and responsibility I take seriously. And that's both parts of it as a Māori and as an educator. As a Māori, I take seriously my position and the contribution I can make in supporting akonga and whānau to live lives that are culturally fulfilling, but also economically prosperous, lives that create intergenerational prosperity and well-being are important. And also as an educator, I'm consciously working towards transforming our education system so it's able to meet its potential. So it can transform the social, cultural, economic and political outcomes for all people of Aotearoa. It's my firm belief that we need to use both our positions as educators in the classroom to deliver transforming learning experiences, but also within our institutions and the system as a whole. This is why I'm an educator. I try to use the skills that I have to make a contribution, one class at a time, one akonga at a time, one story of success at a time. Nō reira, he mihi nui kia koutou hui o mai nei, ka nui me kia koutou, ina rā tātou katoa. Kia ora.
E te uri o mahaki o rongo whakāta o kai kore au nei. Me pēhea koe e kore ai eke. He nā kau mahaki, he nā kau rongo, he nā kau kai. Ka tauha, ka tauha, ka tau nei e. Jamie, when you start your portfolio listing 6 Māori education academic legends as aspirations for your own kaupapa Māori educational philosophies, then I knew I was in for a great read, and I was not disappointed. E hoa, I know that one day I'll be able to list you alongside those giants of Māori academia, because not one of them is as dedicated to vocational education like yourself. There's absolutely nothing accidental about your role as an educator today. Nei au, tō whānau ngā no hoki no te tai rāwhiti, e mihi ana, e mihi ana, e mihi ana. Congratulations, Jamie.
Well done.
We now move on to those who submitted portfolios under the general category. This year, Aotearoa asked nominees to select 1 of 6 categories where they felt the contribution of their teaching to learner success could be best described. And I'm not going to list those categories here today. You can have a look on the Aotearoa website for those categories. But our first recipient under the general category of Progressing Educational Partnerships and Collaboration is Associate Professor Eileen Britt, who is based in psychology at Te Whare o Waitaha, University of Canterbury. Eileen describes her discipline as being situated at the nexus of caring and science, as she strives to provide an environment that empowers others to foster their own well-being. Eileen has developed a clinical psychology technique called motivational interviewing that, rather than assuming the practitioner is the expert, evokes the individual's knowledge, skills, and motivations for change and builds upon these in a collaborative conversation. The impact of teaching this technique to students has been, for some of them, the highlight of their clinical training. A direct quote from the portfolio. Incorporation of te reo Māori and Māori cultural concepts into motivational interviewing and working with local Māori communities and organisations to address mental health disparities is particularly admirable. Eileen's work crosses departmental, institutional, international and sector borders, a truly collaborative effort to improve the mental well-being of people in their care. In these moments of coming together, of sharing and learning, the potential exists to create something more powerful than either alone. Please join me in congratulating Associate Professor Eileen Britt.
Tēnā koutou, nā mihi nui ki a koutou kua mā taki mai. Firstly, I want to say that whilst I am in psychology, I'm also in health sciences at Te Whare o Waitaha. So I want to acknowledge that I contribute across 2 different schools and 2 different colleges at the university. I also want to thank Aotearoa, the awards panel, and the Minister for this award. That this award is in educational partnerships and collaboration is particularly important for me. As you heard, my main area of teaching and research is in the area of motivational interviewing. And this is a collaborative style of conversation for empowering people towards change. So partnerships are particularly important to me. For that reason, e hara taku toa i te toa takatahi, engari he toa takatini. And I wish to acknowledge some people in particular. I want to acknowledge Professor Emeritus Angus McFarlane and Associate Professor Sonia McFarlane for their support, guidance and leadership in bicultural responsive teaching and clinical practice. I want to also extend my thanks to Associate Professor Rua Murray, who nudged me gently to apply for this award and for his support in preparing the application. Thanks also to Dr. Abby Susko Kaiarahi Māori for her guidance and support in building bicultural responsive teaching, both for myself and in the School of Psychology, Speech and Hearing. And to my colleagues in the clinical psychology program who have taken up the rako and are now driving bicultural developments within the program themselves, as well as colleagues in the school's bicultural committee for their commitment and mahi to increasing bicultural responsiveness across the school. I also want to acknowledge Professor Philippa Martin for her willingness to explore a new way for engineering staff to communicate with students to promote better outcomes for their students. And that new way was the staff learning motivational interviewing. And also that, to acknowledge Denise Jackson and other staff at the Ministry of Social Development for their commitment to their clients, that they were also willing to explore a new way, motivational interviewing, for their staff to communicate with their clients, and also for their willingness to fund research on this to better inform decision-making. Lastly, thanks to my colleagues in the Motivational Interviewing Network of Trainers, which is the international collective of MI trainers, who have contributed to my development as a teacher and trainer by sharing their training, ideas, and resources, and to the many students and other trainees I have taught, from whom I have been able to learn and develop as a teacher. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Eileen, my apologies for missing out your other department, Health Sciences. The whakatauki you used at the end of your portfolio. Ki te kotahi te kākaho, ka whati, ki te kāpuia e kore e whati. When we stand alone, we are vulnerable, but together we are unbreakable. Aptly describes the advice your father provided to convince you that you are on the right path with motivational interviewing. Sure, you have the right people around you to support you, the right partnerships, and it will help carry you through. What great advice from your father. Risk-taking to produce something beautiful and meaningful through collaborative relationships most definitely runs through your family. Tēnā koe Eileen I tō kaha, I tō maia, I tō manua nui. Thank you for your courage and your persistence, and congratulations on your achievement here today. Our second recipient under the general category of Innovation in Learning and Teaching is David Cox, a lecturer in the School of Mathematics and Statistics at Te Herenga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. David's portfolio focused specifically on how he was able to turn around one of the most disliked and underperforming courses at Te Herenga Waka. I'm a qualitative researcher, by the way, guys. Stats are not my thing. No one would have been enviable of the mammoth task that David undertook. A paper with 1,300 students with a heavy marking burden for staff. A paper that was compulsory for many programs, so resistance and resentment was strong. A paper that had a low pass rate, which impacted on degree completion and career pathways. David engaged extensively with support services, acknowledged the needs of diverse leaders, adapted assessments, avoided deficit thinking and the use of case studies, engaged more with technology, and aligned better with NCEA, changes that were long overdue in the paper. Impact has gone beyond just the students in the paper and have filtered through to higher level papers, and a reduction in workload in other areas of the university who were scrambling to clean up after the effects of a poorly performing paper. I think though that when you receive unsolicited feedback from a student's father who commented that the change in his daughter is nothing short of astounding, really lets you know that your teaching is working and transforming families. Please join me in congratulating David Cox.
Kia ora koutou, greetings to all. I feel deeply honoured to receive this award, and I want to sincerely thank the many people who've been part of this journey with me. To my colleagues in the School of Mathematics and Statistics, Te Kura Mātai Te Tauranga at Victoria University of Wellington, Te Herenga Waka, Peter Donnellan and Ivy Liu in their roles as heads of schools over the past 7 years, Richard Arnold, who initiated many of the ideas for change that I was privileged to be able to implement within our first year statistics paper, and who supported and guided me throughout. Noctabis Sabanda, who is an integral part of the implementation, in the creation of tools and resources, in the delivery of the course, and not least through the many conversations and discussions we had as to how we would design the course. To Stephen Archer for much practical help, and again for the invaluable conversations and the bouncing round of ideas. To the many, often underappreciated, excellent tutors and markers I've been privileged to work with. The tutors and markers who've worked for Stat 193 and other 100 level papers that I've been involved in. And to the students, the lively ones who ask and answer questions, the quiet ones who just get on with their work. Thank you all for your feedback. To Megan Hall, Assistant Vice-Chancellor Mā Tauranga Māori at Victoria University, who gave of her wisdom and experience to help with the Te Whatu Kairangi application and who gave so many hours of her time. To my previous colleagues in the School of Maths and Stats at the University of Canterbury, and in particular to Irene David, where I began university lecturing 10 years ago and found out how much I enjoyed it. And more widely, I want to acknowledge all the wonderful and inspiring teachers we have in Aotearoa, New Zealand, in early childhood, in primary, in secondary and tertiary. I want to thank and acknowledge my wonderful wife, Jill Visser, who's given me moral support the whole way through, who stayed up late with me, helping me with the design and the format and the wording of the portfolio, and who helped me to see what my teaching philosophy actually was. And to my family, my son Nick, my sisters Helen and Surya Gita, and to my parents, Terry and Sheila. You have both given me so much support, encouragement, guidance, and love. And I'm so pleased my dad is here with me today on Zoom. I dedicate this award to my wonderful mother, Sheila, who died earlier this year, and who would have been so proud to know of this great honour. Ka nui te mihi ki a tātou, kia pai te ahi ahi.
What a beautiful tribute to your mother, David. I'm sure she knows exactly what's going on this afternoon and couldn't be more proud of your achievements today. I was really struck by the first 5 words of your portfolio that said, I hate math, always have. Like, how do you change an attitude like that? Hate is a very strong word to use. And yet within the course of 1 semester, you were able to change the student's mind and the minds of many other students over the years, who even commented that they had contemplated changing their course of study to major in statistics. Another comment from a student said, I did Stats 193 in 2013, twice. Safe to say it didn't go too well. So far this trimester in 2017, I have had all A's. You are indeed a miracle worker, or as one student commented, the best mathematical communicator ever. Canterbury's loss is most definitely Te Whatu gain. Congratulations once again, David, on your achievements this afternoon.
Kia ora.
A third recipient under the general category of Innovation in Learning and Teaching is Professor Richard Easther from the Physics Department at Waipapa Taumatarau, University of Auckland. As a teenager, Richard learnt that university employment is a key milestone for an inspiring scientist, but the teaching component of these roles was not a big part of the science biographies that he used to read. Over the course of his career thus far, he's learnt that contributing to the learning and understanding of others often does more to advance the field of physics than what one's personal research does. He arrived to the department in 2011 after being appointed as the HOD, taking on the unenviable task of leading a complete overhaul of the physics program, the way it was structured, the way it was taught and assessed, and the space it was taught in. And I'm a real huge fan of roundtable teaching studios. Not one single paper in the physics program was left untouched, and the results have been outstanding and have had ripple effects through to postgraduate level, addressing issues of equity and developing a cohort of scholars that are excelling in every way possible. Please join me in congratulating Professor Richard Easther.
Kia kora koutou. I guess I'm in the same position as Jamie. I was struck by listening to the people so far, and that and as we heard, I'm somewhat of an accidental teacher. I wanted to be a scientist, and my journey carried me along, through a PhD and to a position teaching in a university, and then suddenly I realized I was also teaching in a university. But I realized that those two things come from the same place, and that they increasingly support each other, and that we try new ideas, we investigate new things, we bring the intellectual muscle that we have as scientists and my domain at the university, and we apply those skills and those attitudes to developing our teaching program. So it's been a journey, and it's a place that I might not have expected to be when I started out, but I'm grateful and humbled to be recognised this way. There's a huge range of people to thank. This is a huge team effort inside of physics. We did this as a group. So inside of the department, Jan Eldridge, currently my current HOD, Anna Young, Miro Urcantalo, Scott Parkins, Katie Foote, who came from the States and joined us for several years as an expert in physics education research, Peter Wills, who's now retired, Casper Van Wyk, and the whole crew on the Century 2 program, as we called it, to revamp what we were doing. More broadly, Cather Simpson, who will be well known to Aotearoa, David Williams, and Nicolette Rattenbury, who got the Science Scholars program here, airborne. John Cater, Nick Rattenbury, not Nicolette Rattenbury, different Rattenbury, and first and foremost, Jim Hefke, who are literally getting student projects at the University of Auckland into space. To our Dean, John Hosking, who will be known again to many in Aotearoa, who always asked me the right questions and gave me a huge amount of support and trust. And more recently to Gail Morris, who helped enormously as we pulled the portfolio together for this. And to Waipapa Te Whatu Rao, the University of Auckland, the institution itself, it's been a great place to do this. There's been a huge amount of trust and support, and also trying to figure out new ways to deliver the mission of a university that's been here for some time. To my family, Jolisa, Gwen, and Toby, who for a variety of reasons, we've as a family, we've had a fairly complex path around the world that's been led by the educational aspirations of our children, of the children's parents, both of us. And to my own parents, Shirley and Michael, who I think were a little baffled that their son was an astrophysicist, but they were super happy always that I was following my dreams. So I suspect that they would be they'd be happy to see where we're at today. And finally to Mrs. Nevilton, who taught me in Standard 1 and Standard 2, and to Mr. Riddell, who taught me physics in Form 6 and 7. I don't know what it exactly was that they did, but yeah, it made a difference. And I again, they may be a little surprised to see that they're somewhat troublesome student as a teacher himself these days. But again, I hope they'd be pleased and proud to see where I wound up. Thank you very much.
Good, Richard. Isn't that the case? Isn't that always the case where somewhat troublesome students end up becoming somewhat troublesome teachers? Reading your portfolio invoked vivid, painful memories of doing physics at high school. I went to an all-girls school, but I had to go to the boys' school to do physics. So, everything was really geared around the boys and not doing girly physics. So, vivid memories of that time. And I wasn't really reminded, reading your portfolio, I was reminded not of what we learned, but the enthusiasm of our teacher and the camaraderie amongst my peers as we collectively work towards passing the subject. And I think back in those days, I got a 47% in bursary, and that was a C. So I'm pretty happy. I'm glad it, David was probably going, oh, stats, that doesn't quite work out as a 50% pass that we're so used to today. It's very clear that your love of physics and your drive to impart that same love into the hearts of your students drives your passion for teaching. And there's nothing, like I said about Jamie, there's nothing accidental about where you are right at this moment in time. Ko eke koe ki te taumata teitei. You have pursued excellence despite its uncertainties. Congratulations, Richard. Never stop looking up.
Thank you.
Our fourth recipient under the general category of advancing approaches to and outcomes of work-based learning is Associate Professor Carolyn Gates, based in the School of Veterinary Science at Te Kuninga ki Purehuroa, Massey University. Carolyn's approach to teaching has evolved to include addressing the many challenges she faced during her first few years in clinical practice, and all the things she wishes someone had taught her before graduation and being unleashed on the animals in this world. One of those areas was insufficient surgical experience as a student, meaning that graduates weren't equipped with the skills to do routine surgical procedures. The solution? In partnership with the local SPCA, start up your own low-cost desexing clinic, recruit local veterinary volunteers, and set up weekend clinics to provide more surgical opportunities for the students. Caroline is a strong proponent of competency-based veterinary education, which is an educational framework that focuses on what learners can actually do rather than simply what they know. I was particularly impressed with the creation of a new marking rubric based on this framework, where students are evaluated based on the level of supervision they require to perform the different skills, instead of on the traditional fail, marginal, satisfactory, good, excellent scale. Please join me in congratulating Associate Professor Carolyn Gates.
Well, thank you. I'd like to start by thanking Aotearoa for facilitating this award. I don't know about anyone else, but sort of getting to the end of the semester, we're all a little bit fried with the end of the year deadlines and the career existential crises that sometimes provoke. So it's really nice having the opportunity to engage with other educators across New Zealand and hear about the fabulous work that's being done. So I think we're all here because we want to help our current students become our successful future colleagues, and it's really rewarding looking back and seeing actually how much change we have made over the years that we've been teaching. So as was mentioned, most of my teaching portfolio was centered around an initiative we kicked off about 5 years ago after recognizing that students just weren't confident enough with a lot of the basic skills they needed in graduation. And part of that's just the constraints of working within the traditional curricular framework. And so before I was lured down to Palmerston North, I worked as a shelter medicine veterinarian doing high volume spay neuter. And so I was like, hey, let's do something about this. And so I'm really grateful to all my colleagues who listened to my crazy ideas and helped me break down some of those barriers of, but we've always done it this way, or there's no way that could work. And also that they've just continued to support the program over the past 5 years. It's been an incredibly rewarding experience watching it evolve just from where we started, which was like me and 3 cats. Now I have a team of about 40 to 50 student volunteers. We're doing 1,000 surgeries a year, about 350 students volunteering every year. And it's just amazing how much it's grown. And that's really a testament to the hard work of the students who took my idea and then took ownership with it and ran. And so it's now literally at the point where I just walk up, put on gloves and teach, and they have everything else handled. And what they probably can't see is like when they have the surgery mask on, I'm just like grinning ear to ear, listening to them teach their peers and like parrot off exactly what I was telling them before. And it's just fun watching them go in the space of a 4 to 5 hour day from never having done a surgery before to being almost independent, doing a really complex procedure. And so I'm just incredibly proud of all their work. I think I still actually have trouble thinking about myself as a teacher, because I realize like every time I design a learning activity or every interaction I have with my students or colleagues, I'm learning so much from them. And I just realized in pulling together the portfolio and reflecting on that, just how much I've changed over the past 8 years I've been working here. And just really excited to see actually where it goes next, because I just, as was mentioned, like my portfolio, I have no idea what I'm going to teach next. I teach everything, and it's just so much fun getting the chance to learn and share my passion with the students. So all I can say is that thank you to everyone I worked with, and just really excited to see where to now.
Carolyn, crazy ideas win awards. So that's all you need to tell your colleagues to get them on board.
That's my metric for what's working. If somebody tells me not to do it, it's probably on the right track.
After reading your portfolio, I felt absolutely exhausted for you. I was absolutely exhausted for myself, but then I wasn't actually doing any of the work. So I was so exhausted for yourself. The amount of time and effort that it took to implement those 2 strategies that you outlined in your portfolio must have been an amazing impact. And listening to you describe that project clearly aligns with the word ako in Aotearoa, where it's that reciprocal learning. And you're not only the teacher, but you're also the learner. So many alignments there. Congratulations, our beloved pets are lucky to have you training their future vets. Tēnā koe, Carolyn. Our 5th recipient under the general category of Achieving Diversity and Inclusion for Improving Outcomes for Pacific Learners is Dr. Marcia Leenen-Young, a senior lecturer in Te Wānanga Waipapa, the School of Māori and Pacific Studies at Waipapa Taumataro, Auckland University. Pacific learners very rarely see themselves in tertiary education. The curriculum, pedagogies, assessment, and people do not reflect them or their histories. That is the complete opposite when the learners step foot in Marcia's classroom, where everything is Pacific. She is them and they are her. Her teaching enables people to delve into the histories of their ainga and discover a newfound appreciation for Pacific histories and their contemporary relevance. As one student stated, reviewing my father's history has been overwhelming and completely transformational for the both of us. Much of my understanding of who I was as his daughter felt divorced from his upbringing and roots in the pair. Now, with my father as my closest living ancestor, I've come to know that our history is not separate, but shared. His stories, experiences, and memories are in my blood too. I carry them with me. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Marcia Leenen-Young, who has also been awarded with a Pacific endorsement today.
O te whatulo atu I le paia ma le mamalu ua o fia. Tulo, tulo, tulo nā lava. O tō sa ma painga o le ale o I se upu awa e lawe lawe. O te whatalo whatu ma le anganga wha alo alo ma lo le soifua maua ma le langi e mama. There are a lot of people to thank who made this award possible. Far too many for me to talk about in the short span of time we've been given. But to everyone who's been with me on this journey, I appreciate you, and I see that this is only possible because I've been surrounded by amazing people who have the same heart as me for Pacific students or for Pacific excellence. Thank you first to our students. I'm always in awe of the students in my classes and their passion and drive to make changes for Pacific peoples. And it's a real privilege to play just the little small part I get to play in their lives and their time at university. Thank you especially to those students who supported me with the application, Holiana Ainea and the executive of VAA, the Village Arts Association. Thank you also to my colleagues in Pacific Studies. I'm very lucky to be surrounded by really strong Pacific women. Thank you to Jemima Tiatia for setting me on this path and basically just telling me to go hard. To Yvonne Underhill-Sem for bowling down barriers, and especially to Lisa Uparesa for being my mentor and my teaching and learning sounding board. I learned so much from you. Thank you also to my late colleague, Susanna Daisy Jensen, who taught me about students, all students, not just Pacific students. And I still carry what she taught me with me today. To Lisa Bailey for being a great mentor and a very early influence on the way that I think about teaching and learning when I was a GTA for while I was a student, alongside Tom Stevenson, who was the first university lecturer who helped me see the impact that I could have on students just like me. Thank you also to the Faculty of Arts and Waipapa Taumataro, the University of Auckland, especially to Lindsay Diggleman and Gail Morris for their support with the application. To my friends and colleagues who supported me with this award, Siriana Naipi, Zoe Henry, Celie Ropati, Sarah McLean Osborne, and Hayley Moleaina. Thank you for the feedback, the pep talks, and sometimes a little dose of reality that I needed. I really very much appreciate all of you. I also want to thank my family, my siblings, Monika, Jake, Carl and Ben, my nieces, Rosa and Liv, and my two dads, Peter and Paul, for always encouraging me and celebrating the wins with me. And to my late mother, Teresa Young, who made sure that education was a priority for me for as long as I can remember. And she taught me two things that have really helped shape the kind of teacher I am. The first one was to always push hard, especially when the stakes are high. And to treat people with empathy because you never really know what's going on. And finally, thank you to Ako Aotearoa. I am humbled and excited by this honour. Thank you.
Marcia, when I was reading your portfolio, it was a joy to see that one of the Pacific scholars who has had a significant impact on your own career is Tertiary, who was also a recipient of one of these awards in the same year that I received mine. It was a powerful reminder of legendary educators and the legacy they have created being continued on by people like yourself, another legendary educator. Centralizing Pacific epistemologies and approaches to knowledge doesn't just affect your Pacific learners, but also has a ripple effect on their whole community. They say ripples are caused by a disturbance, and I can't think of a better disturber of the status quo than yourself. Kei te whi tiki o te ki, mō u whakakarekare te wai, tēnei au ka mihi. Congratulations, Marcia, on your achievement today. Our sixth recipient under the category of Innovation in Learning, Teaching and Curriculum is Associate Professor Christian Schott, based in the Tourism Department at Te Whatu, Victoria University of Wellington. I think many of us have endured the standard university approach to teaching of lectures, essay, exam, described in Christian's portfolio as a commerce formula. It's a pattern that's not just peculiar to commerce. Christian soon realised that this formula prioritised teaching over learning and fostered only two skills: knowledge retention and essay writing. Determined to do better by his students, Christian undertook a rigorous overhaul of his teaching to develop papers that were centred on student needs, bridged theory and practice, and made sure that learning was relevant and accessible. In doing so, he revolutionised the use of VR, so students are given an immersive experience to a village in Fiji and a town in Peru, with demonstrable benefits evident for both the students in Christian's class and the Indigenous communities in those countries. Christian has gone beyond the tertiary sector to take this innovation in teaching to high schools. Travelling to see the alpacas in Machu Picchu was a highlight of their VR experience. Please join me in congratulating Associate Professor Christian Schott.
Kia ora tātou. It's a great honour and I'm privileged to receive this award, because being in the company of these great educators really makes you realise how great the educational landscape in Aotearoa is, and at all levels of tertiary education and in all corners of tertiary education. And I'm really guided by the idea of the United Nations, leave no one behind, because sustainability is the defining challenge of our times. And this is what's really been driving me, particularly for the last decade or so. And that's where the idea of experiential learning through virtual reality comes from. We need to expose students, we need to expose our learners with different experiences beyond our own environments and help them appreciate how people are impacted by some of these issues. not just here, but elsewhere. And to me, leaving no one behind means also our students, doing what we can to make our students successful in their learning journey, because it is easy to leave learners behind at every stage of education. And I really want to acknowledge a number of people that have been so crucial in making me who I am as an educator. My wonderful wife, Jo, who's just over there, for always being supportive and always giving feedback on no matter how bizarre the things might be that I'm working on. And my 3 children, Sebastian, Sophia, and Amelie, who all challenge me in different ways, but are also part of this learning journey for me as a parent and as an educator. And my parents, who actually, and this is a sign of their devotion, are online now, although it is 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning now in Germany. And this is amazing to see, for exposing me to the many different cultures and languages that I sort of participated in as I grew up and as I moved around, because sustainability is inherently about understanding other cultures, other people, having empathy, and wanting to do better for not just us, but people in other places. And I want to acknowledge my colleague, Catherine Sutherland, who is currently at a Terns conference, which is a bit of a shame that they collide. She first introduced me to the Terns conference as the Tertiary Education Research Network. My first one was at the University of Otago, and she has been a key person in driving me to think outside the box. Why should I settle for the formula that has been so tried and tested over hundreds of years? The world has changed drastically, and we are not always changing with it, but our students are changing. And I want to acknowledge my colleague, Karen Smith, who has always been supportive, but also available for a little bit of a robust discussion about how my ideas might not always work in the way I anticipate. And Megan Hall, who was previously acknowledged, a great portfolio coach for her guidance and her time, because she has got more than a full-time job, and this came on top of it, but it is massively acknowledged. And 2 of my students who are actually with us today, Diana Kam and Amy Norris, both of them have been the students that I love working with, because they give me critical feedback, but I can also see that they're learning. And they then became passionate tutors in my courses, which helped me carry on that passion that I was trying to bring into it, and their wonderful support of my portfolio. All these things are so crucial to being an educator. And in the end, it is for our students. So I can't thank all of them, but many, many of them, of course, have shared my journey. Stephen Marshall, who happens to be here as well, who has shared my passion for the scholarship of teaching and learning, and that it's important to share what we do in our research communities, in our communities of practice, because otherwise we can't share what works and what doesn't work unless we have opportunities like this. And Emeritus Professor Doug Pearce, who gave me lots of teaching when I first started. And I also want to acknowledge him for his guidance and his mentorship as I arrived as a very freshly minted academic at Te Whatu quite a while ago. And I want to say thank you to New Zealand, because as of Monday, I'm a new New Zealander.
Welcome to the country. I can't really say that. Like, I don't actually know how to congratulate someone for becoming a citizen, because you're already here. Congratulations, though. And I want to shout out to your parents for their commitment to you, for zooming in at such a, at a time that I know what I would rather be doing at 4 o'clock in the morning. I am a consumer of tourism, like many of us. I'm going to presume joined in here today, but obviously COVID has disrupted a lot of things in your field, and yet you're still able to give your students an immersive experience to understand issues that affect other countries' tourism industry. hopefully when COVID calms down, you might be able to take some of those students to those countries so they can actually experience those things. When you do it, I'm sure they can watch positive comments on your student evaluation. And then, who knows, apply for another teaching award. Once again, congratulations, Christian, on your achievement yesterday. Our final recipient under the general category of achieving diversity and inclusion for improving outcomes for Pacific learners is Associate Professor Patrick Vakaoti, based in the Department of Sociology, Gender Studies and Criminology at Te Whatu University of Otago. Otago has a growing number of Pacific Island students, but that doesn't mean that the university is reflective of these students' Pacific cultural identity. That makes Patrick's position as a Fijian academic even more important and impactful for students. As one Pacific student commented, it is hard to go into a classroom that is predominantly white without feeling intimidated by those around you. Patrick would walk into the lecture theatre and greet us with his famous Fijian smile. And I have no doubt that as soon as that happened, all their fears dissipated. One of the realities of teaching at Otago is that the majority of our students are non-Pacific and non-Māori. So Patrick has the added role of breaking down inherent biases and opening up their eyes to Pacific worldviews and realities. For example, despite what the textbook says, it is the reality in many cultures to have more than just 4 grandparents. Please join me in congratulating Associate Professor Patrick Vakaoti, who has also been awarded with a Pacific endorsement and is ironically sitting right down the hallway from me in another room.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ni sambula vinaka, ni samata vinaka mai na nungu tokani, na wekangu ki kia munina leo ni nungu matavu wale. It is an honor to be recognized as a Te Whatu Kairangi Aotearoa Tertiary Educator Awardee this year. To my fellow awardees, congratulations. It's humbling to share this moment with you all. I've read your profiles. They are inspiring and augur well for the future of teaching and learning in this country. I extend my gratitude to the University of Otago, my academic home. Here, many members of this family have contributed to my growth and success. Professor Clinton Golding of HEDC, thank you for your advice and comments on my portfolio. You are the master craftsman. To my colleagues, I've learned much from you all. Thank you. To my Maori and Pacific colleagues, thank you for normalizing our ways of being and advocating teaching and learning approaches that value culture and identity. This award demonstrates that our contribution to learning spaces that are predominantly Western is valuable and worthy of recognition. On that note, I encourage you all to apply for such teaching awards, pushing beyond cultural practices that feed our reluctance to apply in the first place. It increases our visibility, our values and approaches, because they are equally as valid as any other approach to teaching and learning. There's also a special team that I would like to acknowledge, the group of generous students and staff who deliver professional and academic workshops on engaging with and supporting Pacific Island students succeed at the university. And some of them are in the room with me today. Alison, Ben, Sia, Maria, Eric, Saki, Pio, Kem, Ama, Vika, Melissa, and Matt. Thank you all very much. The workshop has enhanced the teaching approaches and engagement staff have with Pacific students. Students, past and present, have been my inspiration, and I acknowledge them today. They teach me about myself and keep my teaching approaches and content relevant. It is always rewarding to see that you have influenced your learners. I'd like to thank my family, my parents, my siblings, relatives, and friends who are here with me in the room today. They are pivotal in shaping my relational approach to teaching. Today, I also specifically wish to honor my late mother, who was a primary school teacher in Fiji. As an Indigenous Fijian woman, her teaching both at home and in school was influenced by her Fijian values of wewekani, or relationships, veitalanoa, or conversing respectfully with people, and veirongorongodi, which is listening respectfully and intently to others. Her values became my values, and I draw on this every time I interact with learners. In saying this, my thoughts are also with my 80-year-old father, who I'm assuming is probably busy in his garden on the island of Ovalau in Fiji. He taught me the value of hard work. And finally, to my wife, Vanisha, and son, Rafa, who are also with me in the room today, thank you. This award would not have been possible without your support, encouragement, the many life lessons I continue to receive from you, your love and your care. Life is joyful with you both. Thank you for allowing me to do and practice what I love, being a teacher. And I dedicate this award to all the teachers at every level for the work they do in shaping hearts and minds and helping transform the world in the way we all want it to be, safe, just, and equitable. No reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa, vinaka sarvakalevu. Thank you all very much.
The sun in the sun in a buku nindra kinanona mosa in the sun in the sun
Patrick, although we've been colleagues for many, many years, your portfolio has given me a greater insight into who you are, which is a great advantage to have, given that you're going to be the dean of my school starting in January. And I really wanted to run down the hallway and join in your celebrations, but I'm not that fast to make it back in time to do this part of the script. Even though you may have stumbled upon university study by chance, your decision to stay in academia is a deliberate one. We're most indebted to your careers teacher at high school, who enrolled you in the University of the South Pacific without your knowledge. Kei taku manu taiko, neira te mihi au tauira au hoa kaimahi, a tō whānau whānui, a te tumu hoki. Kei te mihi, kei te mihi, kei te mihi. Congratulations, Patrick. It concludes the presentation of the recipients of an inaugural Te Whatu Kairangi Award. Like I said at the beginning, I had the pleasure of reading all of your portfolios in preparation for this event. And it was apparent that each and every one of you continually reflect on your practice, make changes when necessary, and go beyond the call of your profession to ensure that your students are challenged, motivated, and supported. Whilst the usual phrases of transformative teaching, producing critical thinkers, and empowering learners appeared in many portfolios, I found the comments by your students and colleagues much more insightful, where they described you as respectful, kind, caring, inspirational, passionate, enthusiastic, and infectious, things that we wouldn't say. When asked in a teaching and evaluation or a peer evaluation, how kind and caring is your teacher? But when many of the comments in your portfolio speak about your character as a person, that shows you've made an impact as a person and not just as a teacher. It's a true testament of your value to your students and colleagues. I congratulate you all once again for this amazing achievement. So please give all of our awardees today another big round of applause. I see lots of virtual clapping going on the screen. Of the 9 people acknowledged this afternoon, the panel chose just one of them to be the overall Prime Minister's Supreme Award winner. And I'd like to turn our attention to the announcement of that person and a video recorded by the Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Jacinda Ardern.
It gives me great pleasure to announce the Prime Minister's Educator of the Year Award. These awards reflect the value of education and its ability to change lives for the better. They recognise leadership and the way educators create positive impacts for students, colleagues and communities. This award comes with a prize of $10,000 and goes to the person who best exemplifies the award's overall criteria. The recipient of the award will also have the honour of wearing a korowai, specially created by Te Aotearoa weaving expert Vera Noa Hitet. Though Araha, the name chosen for the korowai, recognises the mana of the Educator of the Year Award and the person who receives it. It is passed on each year to the Educator of the Year awardee. This year's recipient has a strong record of innovation, hands-on teaching, and academic publishing, and international leadership. They are also a strong supporter of students taking charge of their own education and reinforcing their learning through teaching their peers. So without further ado, the Prime Minister's Educator of the Year Award goes to Associate Professor Carolyn Gates, Associate Professor in Veterinary Epidemiology and Education, Massey University. My warmest congratulations to you, Carolyn.
I think we can all unmute ourselves right now and just go crazy with the applause for Carolyn.
Bravo.
And now mute yourselves again. Kai ore ore, o te ao mātauranga hauora kararehe. Koriru I a koe tēnei honore nui. Nā runga anō I tō kaha ki te whakarite I tētahi huarahi ako e tika ana mō ngā tauira, kātahi, kārua mo te kaupapa anō hoki. Mai kore ngā tāngata pērā I a koe, ka raruraru ngā tauira me te oranga o ngā mōkai matahi apo. Congratulations, Carolyn, on this outstanding achievement. I hope I've given you enough time to collect your thoughts because I'd now like to give you another chance to speak, but this time as the Prime Minister's Supreme Awardee. Following Carolyn's speech, Alexia will be singing the song Kuria Nei in recognition of the achievements of all the awardees here today. Carolyn, kei a koe te wā.
Thank you so much. I honestly don't even know what to say because I wasn't expecting this at all, considering just all the fantastic work everyone else has been doing, just hearing their stories. It makes me feel so incredibly humbled and insufficient. So just again, thank you to everyone who supported me along the journey with this, and I'm just so excited to be part of this great group of educators and hopefully inspiring students and other educators to do the same. Very short speech.
Urea nei e te hau. Wai ata mai koutou. Horo ia e te ua. Whiti whitia e te rā. Mahea ake ngā poraruraru. Makere ana ngā here. Erere, wairua erere. Ki ngā ao o te rangi. Whiti whitia e te rā. Mahea ake ngā Makere ana ngahere. Makere ana ngahere. Kotai.
Carolyn, what an amazing achievement. Like I said, I was exhausted after reading your portfolio. So I can only imagine how much this news is going to inspire others and inspire your colleagues, and most importantly, your learners. And so while these awards celebrate the educator, we can only ever be educators because of the people who place their educational aspirations in our hands. We're all here only because our students enable us to be here. So now let us turn our attention to a video montage from our learners.
My interaction with the management team as a whole has been great, but also learning from Carolyn how we interact with the students and kind of how a real clinic is going to be run. It really prepares us for when we're going to be out there in the real world. She's just a great role model.
Every time that I see that David is taking a section of a course, my mind is kind of put at ease because I know that that section of the course is going to be well taught, well organized. As a student, you just want to do as well as you can, but it really helps if you've got a teacher that you know is going to help you do that.
The way that Rachel teaches is she creates a safe space. The abundance of resources and information that she brings in to support her teaching, it's so incredibly helpful for us as students.
The thing about Jamie, he relates to the people that are in his class, so like especially the younger ones like me. The time that I had learning with him was great. It was excellent. Yeah, I really enjoyed my time, and I wish he was still our tutor now, but yeah, very easy to relate to and especially to learn from. It was great.
He always provides space for our own creativity in his teaching, and he also continuously encourages us to think outside of the box while still learning essential skills.
He's really passionate about sharing and imparting knowledge on young people, their concerns, issues that they face, and the questions that they may be asking. So having that sense of relatability allows students to feel comfortable in engaging and learning in Patrick's teaching environment.
I really just love his willingness to help out. I think that really makes him stand out to me as quite it's a characteristic that I don't see in a lot of other lecturers. I think he's just so willing to go above and beyond.
So she created an environment, a space where everyone felt safe to give it a go. So that was really special, and if we were struggling in an area, she'd redesign to strengthen us in that area, or if we had a need that would come up, she'd redesign to cope with that need. So it was very adaptive and very tailored on a very diverse class, but she brought us all together.
When it was my first time guest lecturing, I was really nervous, and the one thing she said to me was, "You're the only one here that knows about this topic. Don't worry if you fumble or ever. I mean, these are stories that you're carrying with you, so I feel empowered to make these stories heard." And I felt that changed the momentum in the way I saw myself guest lecturing.
An absolutely wonderful video. Such beautiful words from your students. That showcases the passion and enthusiasm that I wasn't able to see in your written portfolio. So to hear those words come to life has been absolutely beautiful. We move on to the next part. We're nearly finished, so you can go off and pop those bottles of champagne and de-stress from this whole situation, from this whole event. But before then, it's with great honour that I now introduce a video from Selena Chan, a former winner of the Prime Minister's Supreme Award and a passionate advocate of vocational education, to reflect on your achievements here today.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. My utmost congratulations to all of this year's Te Whatu Kairangi Awardees. The Vakaoti, Tohaina o Pāngia kei te ao, share your skills to the world, comes to mind as I wish you well, and as you join many other tertiary educators in Aotearoa, working towards better outcomes for our konga across all educational sectors. My special congratulations to Carolyn Gates, who was nominated under the category for Advancing Approaches to and the Outcomes of Workplace Learning. The category seeks to recognize educators who support Akonga engaged in workplace learning, and this includes not only work-integrated learning, internships and practicums, but also learning through apprenticeships and traineeships. I'm delighted to see work-based learning being recognized through the tremendous work of Carolyn, and we need to see more people from this diverse area of tertiary education and training being nominated for Te Whatu Kairangi in the future. Work-based learning is different to the ARCO taking place across other parts of education. It relies on the dedicated effort of individual Akonga, the support of the workplace through its experienced and skilled people, and organizational development processes. It also includes the input of external supporters, example by managed apprenticeship mentors, industry training advisors, and of course, whānau and the community. While the process may sound complex, the advantages of workplace learning are many. It's important to note that these advantages can only be provided to Akonga when support is in the form of trainers, apprentices, mentors, and other workplace-based organizational provisions are present. Contributions to excellence in work-based learning take place during on-job training and education, on-job or online learning, and through pastoral care and support. An award may be made to an individual, for example, a tradesperson who has mentored many apprentices, or to a team of people supporting workplace-based learners through their learning journey. So for those of you who think these awards are not for you or represent the work you do, please think again. They are there for you too. When I look back at my experiences in applying for the award in 2007, I realized how important it is to identify and describe what you feel best contributes to excellence in vocational education and training in your own context. What are the things you do that make a difference and contribute to Akonga's success? Draw on Aotearoa's offer to corridor with you on what makes your ARCO special, what you may view as common sense practice that you take for granted may actually be quite exceptional. I encourage you to look ahead to 2023 and find out how you can get involved. Remember this Vakaoti. Hei iti te makaroa, nana I a kati te kaikatia. The makaroa grub may be small, but it cuts through the kaikatia. Ngā mihi nui.
A tēnā koe Selena I o whakaro I tēnei ahiahi. Once again, I'd like to congratulate all the recipients who have been awarded a Te Whatu Kairangi Award this afternoon. Carolyn, Rachel, Jamie, Eileen, David, Richard, Marcia, Christian, and Patrick. Kia toa koe heiti harikoa, heiti kotahi harikoa mo te iwi. May you be triumphant so that all of us can rejoice. I also know that sitting with you today or watching live around the world, around the country, are your whānau, your friends, your family, your colleagues, and your students. You've all said that they have been instrumental in your success thus far. And at this time, I think it's important that we acknowledge all those important people in the same way that they've acknowledged you. So please give your supporters a big round of applause, a high five, a hug. So let's just unmute and let's go for that. As we come to the end of the very first Te Whatu Kairangi Awards ceremony, I want to briefly draw your attention to the fact that the 2023 round of Te Whatu Kairangi opens tomorrow, bringing with it some exciting new changes as we continue to evolve these awards for greater inclusivity and representation. All information will be available on the Aotearoa website tomorrow. And speaking of Aotearoa, there are a number of staff who have worked tirelessly behind the scenes, too many to mention, to help shape the Te Whatu Kairangi Awards this year. Your efforts never go unnoticed or unappreciated. Me kore koutou, kua kore a Te Whatu Kairangi. That's enough from me today. And now I'm going to hand the rākau back over to May to sing our himene and for Joe to close us off this afternoon with a karakia. Tēnā koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Karen. If you know the signs for this himene, please join me. Ad-lib if you need to, because I am. Okay. He honore, te kororia, mauna rongo ki te whenua. Whakaro, paine, ki nā tangata katoa. Ake, amine, tua, te piringa, toku oranga, toku oranga.
Unmute. Ko pai. Sorry, I couldn't unmute. Nā reira, kia ora mai anō rā tātou katoa. I mui te whakakatinga. O tā tātou hui ipurangi. Tamihi ki ngā kaiako whakahirahira o te tau. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Me mihi anō hoki ki ngā tāngata katoa I kuhu mai ai ki roto I tā tātou hui. Ki ngā tāngata katoa o ngā hau e whā. Nā reira, tēnei rā, te mihi atu ki a koutou e kui mā, e koro mā, e hine mā, e tama mā, tēnā koutou, o tira tēnā rā tātou katoa. Ka mihi hoki ki te ahorangi nei ki a Karen Paringātai, nāna nei hoki tātou, a tātou mahi I whakahaere I arataki I te rānei. Nā reira, e te rangatira Karen, tēnā no hoki koe. Nā kia karakia tātou, he honore, he kororia ki te atua, he maunga rongo ki te whenua, he whakaaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa āmine. Nā reira, kia tauiho, o manaakitanga e te atua matua, ki runga kia mātou katoa, e hui hui ake nei I mui toaroaro. Pai atu hoki ki o mātou, whānau katoa o mātou hoa katoa, kororia ki tō ingoa tapu, āmine. Tēnā koutou, kumutu tonu.